Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to Colorado College. And thank you for coming to Block 5 First Mondays. Wow. So good morning once again. And my name is Ryan Platt. And I'm an assistant professor of performance studies in the Department of Theater and Dance. It is my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Academic Events Committee, which consists of members from the President's Office, advancement, and faculty representatives from political science and psychology. Our mission is to help plan events throughout the year that involve the entire college community. Since its inception, the First Mondays series has provided an exceptional opportunity for everyone in the community, students, staff, and faculty alike, from all disciplines and divisions, to collectively participate in the intellectual life of the college. The selection of First Monday speakers also employs a collective process and depends on your ideas and input in order to sustain a truly dynamic and diverse range of topics and speakers. With this in mind, the Academic Events Committee welcomes your questions, comments, and most importantly, nominations for First Monday speakers at any time. If you have ideas, please feel free to contact us directly or to use the nomination form available on the First Mondays website. On the website, you can also check out the rest of this semester's lineup, which includes poet Claudia Rankin and political scientist John Sides, who runs the prominent blog, The Monkey Cage. Today's speaker, Rev Dr Jamie Washington, will be introduced by Assistant Vice President of the college and Director of the Butler Center at Colorado College, Dr. Paul Buckley. As the inaugural Director of the Butler Center, Dr. Buckley has become a crucial leader on campus for issues of diversity, inclusion, and intercultural exchange. In addition to Colorado College, Dr. Buckley has worked in a similar capacity at Dartmouth University, Andrews University, and Syracuse University, where he also received his PhD in Cultural Foundations of Education with a focus on critical race theory and higher education. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Paul Buckley.
Good morning. Welcome back. Happy New Year, and that should probably be the last time that I say that. Welcome to First Monday, celebrating the remarkable life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We have gathered here not idly or without intent, but our purposes today involve raising and affirming a critical consciousness of Dr. King's message of courageous confrontation of evil by the power of love, a radical love, to transform society, provoking powerful reflection and interrogation of our alignment or incongruence with his message, and setting right how we honor the legacy of a king who stood firmly against poverty, racism, and militarism, evils that remain commonplace in our society today. We are gathered to inspire and to be inspired, to change and to action, not just for today or tomorrow, but for the long term, for a lifetime. Dr. King's life and legacy is centered in his selfless surrender of all. He surrendered his marriage, he surrendered his fatherhood, aspirations to teach and to preach only to his home church, his surrender to the call of purpose, to give himself to a movement that would begin to change this nation. This is the greatest surrender, the greatest courage, to give yourself to something, or perhaps someone, much bigger than yourself. I am very honored today to introduce our speaker of the hour, a man who has surrendered himself, committed his life to the cause of justice, Reverend Dr. Jamie Washington. The accomplishments and accolades that I'm about to read to you are the result of a long journey of wrestling with and coming to terms with himself, learning to hear the call to fulfill the life of purpose he was created for, and finally, learning to heed the call again and again. Reverend Dr. Jamie Washington serves as the president and founder of the Washington Consulting Group, a multicultural organizational development firm out of Baltimore, Maryland, which was recently named in The Economist as one of the top 10 global diversity consultants, and one of only 2 selected in the United States. Dr. Washington has served as an educator, administrator, consultant in higher education for over 32 years. Dr. Washington is the president and co-founder of the Social Justice Training Institute, and we were honored to have one of his employees with us visiting for the past few days who left her impact. So thank you, Dr. Washington. His accolades include serving as chair of the board of Many Voices, a Black church movement for LGBT people, serving on the faculty of Camp Pride and as a board member of Campus Pride and Beyond Diversity. He is also a co-pastor of the Unity Fellowship Church in Baltimore, a well-educated man who, after receiving his Bachelor of Science degree, double Master of Science degrees, and a PhD, then returned to school. I don't know who does that after a dissertation. Returned to school to study at Howard University School of Divinity. He is a writer, speaker, coach, consultant, teacher, and trainer. Has spoken all over this country, as well as Canada and South Africa. He is a life member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the same fraternity that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King belonged to, and proudly acknowledges being the grandfather of 7 and great uncle of 5. We'll look at you when you come to the stage to see how that happened. And known as the engagement specialist, he sees himself as an instrument of change. He works every day to help people find the best in themselves and others. He lives by the words of one of his favorite songs, "If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that he's or she has traveled wrong, then my living shall not be in vain." Again, I am honored to introduce to you a lover of justice and the work toward making that justice a reality, my new friend, Reverend Dr. Jamie Washington.
Then my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. If I as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Thank you so much. Good morning. And I want to add my welcome back. I'm so excited to have this opportunity to be with you and to be the first Monday speaker for 2016 and this block. I am delighted to be able to stand before you on this special day, the 30th anniversary of the acknowledgement of a man who I remember the day of his assassination. I was just a young child. I remember that day so clearly because when I was in school that day, my teacher was crying, and I couldn't understand why she was crying. My teacher never cried in school. I went home to find out as I sat and watched our little black and white television, something big had just happened. And so as I watch the sadness around the country, I say to folks, I don't know if it was that moment when Dr. King's spirit came alive in me, when I began to recognize it, or if the spirit of Dr. King entered me. But I do know that since that day, and probably before if you talk to some of my friends, the words liberty and justice for all has meant something to me. And so I get to spend my life living and walking in that truth, holding that to be the way I want to make the world be. Living the legacy is what that means for me. So as we come back together, I want to say thank you for being here this morning. I had the pleasure of stepping into this morning the All People's Breakfast and had a wonderful time. How many of you were there? Anybody got to be there this morning? Yes, exactly. Come on, let's give a hand for all of that great work and much that is going to continue. So now in the form of traditional black preacherhood, I got to thank some people. So give me just a minute, right? So I thank everybody, for bringing me here and making all that possible. I want to honor our president. Thank you so much for your words and your remarks this morning. I thank so much Mary Frances and Brenda and Dean Edmonds and my new and dear friend, Dr. Buckley, and my old and dearest friend, anywhere Pearl Leonard Rock has been, I have been. And so I want to honor her and her legacy and the work that she's done over these years. Please join me in appreciating all of them. Thank you. Thank you so much. But one of the things I often talk about as I go into spaces is that I am doing this work with three things in mind. The first thing is everybody needs to understand that the work of higher education is to prepare the next generation of leaders. And that is to prepare them to lead effectively and to engage effectively in a global society. That is all of our work. We have the privilege of sitting in a place like this, so all of us need to get prepared to do that work. The next thing that I want everyone, sometimes I talk about, is that I want leadership to understand their role as leaders. How many of you in the room see yourself as leaders? Ooh, that's pitiful. I'm going to need you to look up there at that sign that's on the wall, and I need you to get really clear that by the very fact that you are sitting in this seat, you are positioned as leaders for the next round. So whatever area you will go in, you will have the opportunity to lead, and it is important that you get a handle on that right now. And so what will it mean for me to step out of here, and that's whether I'm going to be a teacher or a politician or a lawyer or a good parent? that I will need to lead. And so that is who I'm talking to today. I'm talking to the leaders, not just everybody, because I speak to a lot of audiences. And any of us who get the privilege of attending a four-year institution to receive formal higher education must understand that we are positioned for leadership. Does that make sense? Are you getting that? All right, exactly. So I'm talking to all of you as the next generation of leaders. But then there's a third group. And that is the group that is poised to take my place. And in this room, I got to hear from some of those people this morning. And so I want to honor this morning our president of our student body, Jacob, Nafundu, and Brittany. I'm going to ask them to stand if they would, please. Yes, that's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Quite frankly, folks, after they spoke, I said, why ain't they doing this? Because they were that clear and that powerful. I invite you to get connected with them, hear the message, and hear our work and our charge. And so, folks, this morning I have an opportunity just to do what Dr. Buckley named, which was to challenge and to inspire you to think about what is my role as a leader for the next round, to, in fact, live into the legacy. Now, what I enjoyed as I came in and we were getting started, it was kind of hard to get y'all quieted down. And I like that. That means some of y'all like each other. And I like being in spaces where people like each other. I think that's the start of having communities that matter. Here's what you're going to get to do for the next 3 minutes. I'm going to invite you to, and stay up in the balcony, stay down here. I want you to say, good morning, Happy New Year, welcome back to 3 or 4 people that you haven't said good morning and welcome back to yet. And then I want you to sit down with someone you didn't know when you came in the room. Now, repeat after me. I need a partner. Someone I didn't know when I came in the room. You got 3 minutes. Say hi and get a partner. Go. For the next few minutes, folks, part of being able to live in the legacy is to get yourself in the room. I know many of us are still excited from break. Many of us are just coming back, and we had our first class today and was like, oh, all right, I'm back in it, right? And got to go and got to prepare and got to focus in on, where are my seniors? Where are my seniors? Got some seniors in the room? Yes, right? Get ready to get done and get out, right? And so I know that we are all over the place. And it has been my experience that, particularly on these days, that lots of folks will show up at the MLK thing. Lots of the folks who got to be there this morning will take this beautiful program, sit it on their desk, let people know they was there. And that's the end of the work. And I'm not saying that's true for everyone. And I know that many of you will participate in some of the ongoing opportunities for engagement this afternoon. And some of you may choose not to because of other things. And I don't want to pass judgment or make folks wrong. But I want you to get clear that you are in a place that has set aside the day for us to think about what our role and our work is to live into the legacy. How do we as leaders step into this for the next round? And so I want to give you just a few minutes. I want you to talk to each other before I talk to you. Now, I want to be really clear, folks. Lest you think I'm trying to fill time, I'm a black preacher. This little 30 minutes they gave me ain't nothing, right? I'll be done with this. But what I do want to do is I don't want you leaving here just having heard stuff, but not engaged stuff, okay? Right? So take a moment and have a conversation about these things. First, what's up? Whatever has your energy or attention. Pay attention on this day, what has your energy or attention. Are you just coming from the luncheon and heard the powerful spoken word by my sister Jennifer? Is that it? Is that right? The spoken word was Nicole, right? Stand up, Nicole. That's another next generation leader. Nicole. If you missed Nicole's this year, Nicole shared last year, Nicole got some stuff to say. And it's powerful for us to think about. So you might be there. I was so inspired by the students and the spoken word, and I am excited about it. So that might be up for you. You might be still wrestling with what's going on in class. You might be wondering about stuff from the over break. But give yourself permission to be there. The next thing I want you to talk about is, what does MLK mean for you? What does this day mean for you? Is this, a day off or a day on? What does that mean? And what does it mean to be on for you in this day? What does this day inspire us to do? And the last thing I want to give you, and we're just taking a few minutes, folks, because I want your voice in the conversation. And that is, on this 30th anniversary of the holiday, how far have we come? What would you say about how we are different today than we were 30 years ago, from your perspective? And how far do we need to go? You got about 3 minutes with your partner. High five your partner. High five them. Have a conversation. Thank you. Give your partner a high five. High five them. Keep that energy up and going. So, folks, here's what I want you to do for me. When you leave this space, every time you see your high five buddy on campus, high five him. Give him a high five. And what that is going to do, folks, is bring you back to this moment. It's going to bring you back to the time when we sat together and we focused on the legacy. How many of us know we will leave this place, we will have had a good experience, and then stuff will happen, right? I'll get an email, I'll get a phone call, I'll open up the textbook, and this will slowly slip away, and we will easily go back into business as usual. What I want you to do, folks, is to begin to think about, how do I keep my commitment to living the legacy on my screen? One of the ways that I do that is I see my high five buddy. And when I see them, I give them a high five. And I get reminded, yes, I have something to do. Yes, I thought about how far we need to go. Yes, MLK Day does mean this to me. And that's what I want you to focus on. Is that all right? Give them a high five. And so, my intention in that piece was to offer you a moment to know that your voice matters. Sometimes in these discussions, some of us slip into the background. We don't always understand what we have to say, or how do I matter in the conversation of diversity, of the conversation of inclusion, the conversation of social justice. And if we don't use our voice, then we will miss the importance of our voice. We will not have heard what we feel, and folks will not have heard what you know. And so I want to challenge you to look for opportunities to continue to use your voice. Each generation will have its opportunities to hold this country true to what it says it values. Rev Dr. Martin Luther King and those who went before him worked tirelessly to actually tear down some legal barriers that would have had this space not be possible. And so your parents and grandparents were a part of that in whatever ways that they were, but they were part of the legacy to get us to a room that looks like this. My generation benefited from the tearing down of those legal walls and barriers through the first and the second round of the dream. The next generation of leaders, which is you, now that we are in this room together, it is your charge to help us figure out, how do we now really live in this room together? How do we now really live the dream and the legacy? And so some of us might feel like, well, haven't we already gotten there? Because, you know, we elected President Barack Obama. I know who the president is. You might feel like we've already there because we have same-sex marriage in the country. You might feel like we are already there on a number of different levels. And how many of you know we've still got work to do, right? There's still work to be done. And so my comments are about how do I take responsibility for living the legacy. There's got to be some things that are clear. One of the things that was named by one of your student leaders this morning is there needs to be a consciousness, a raised consciousness about how all of this matters and who we are in that discussion. So I just want to ask you a couple of simple questions. How many of you agree that in the year 2016, there's still groups of people who get treated here and groups of people who get treated here? How many agree that's alive and well, right? I'm looking around the room and I see most hands, right? Now, the next thing I just want to name as I move into my 4 comments is, if you agree this is alive and well, for the rest of my comments to matter, you must have a problem with that. You can't simply say this is alive and well, and I hope they have good pizza for lunch, right? If you agree this is alive and well, you must have a problem with it in order to live into the legacy. Once you agree that and have a problem with it, then you have to own, sometimes I'm a member of this group, and sometimes I'm a member of this group. And it's not always that simple, but it often is. And in order to get clear about the dynamics, we must hold the truth of the current state. The status quo is where we are. And then we get to say, what do I do on a daily basis to keep this alive and well, and what am I doing to help to shift it? Now, the shift is not from here to here. Mexicans are taking over. Gays have taken over. Women are taking our jobs. Anybody ever hear that stuff? Yeah. I talk about that as the fear. What I'm encouraging us to do is to consider moving from here to here to here. I refer to that as with liberty and justice for all. Now, I read that somewhere. That's in something. Folks, I don't pretend that I stand here without an agenda. I do have an agenda. And my agenda is liberty and justice for all. And so, I invite you to consider what's yours. I'm in Colorado. So with that named, I want you to consider this statement. We can't teach what we don't know, and we can't lead where we won't go. Now, I wish I'd have said it first, but Malcolm did, right? And so I've got to give that credit to him. And he invites us to consider if we are to be the next generation of leaders. We can't show people anything that we've not been willing to do. We can't teach what we don't know, and we can't lead where we won't go. Does that make sense to you? So, here's what you get to do during your remaining time. If you are committed to living the legacy, if you are committed to looking at how far we've come, but see how far we need to go, what is your charge and what is your responsibility? I want to offer you 4 things for living the legacy. First, awareness of self. Say that, awareness of self. So who am I and what am I carrying about myself as well as others? How does what I'm carrying impact how I relate to you, how I react to you, how I engage with you? What does that matter in terms of living? How does that matter in terms of living the legacy? What do I understand about the history? What do I understand about present dynamics? When I hear the words Black Lives Matters, what comes up for me? Do I understand how to hold Black Lives Matter and all lives matter at the same time without diminishing the importance of Black Lives Matter? Can I hold that truth? Do I need to go to All Lives Matter and not hold why today we are saying Black Lives Matter? Okay? So who am I and what am I carrying and how does that impact what I'm seeing? Who am I? When often people hear the conversation about diversity and inclusion, the first thing that comes to their mind that we're going to talk about is what? What are we going to talk about? Race. When we're talking about race, who are we talking about? Black and white. So if you're not black and white, good luck. Maybe we'll find some time for you in the discussion and maybe we won't. Now, how many of us know that race is about more than black and white and diversity is about more than race? And so why in 2016 do we still go to race and go to black and white? It is about our context. And so what I want to offer you in the terms of understanding who you are, you must understand this conversation in the context of the U.S. We have a particular race history, and we are still working the dynamics of race. And the dynamics of race, the narrative around race, has been one that has erased First Peoples and Native Americans, that has made us monoracial. The dynamics of race, the narrative around race in the U.S. has, again, even when folks come from a non-raced background, they come into the U.S. and they get raced. And so race is salient and pervasive, and it matters. Why am I saying all of this, folks? Is if you are going to lead for the next round, you must be willing to do race. Now repeat after me. Jamie did not say race was more important than other issues of difference. Say it again. Jamie did not say race was more important than other issues of difference. Okay? Don't lie on me. Don't go out here saying I said that. Because I didn't say that. And what often happens when I show up in a space in this package, what people hear is that I said race was more important. I didn't say that. I said given our context, we must be willing to do race and engage what it means. Does that make sense to you folks? So who am I and what am I carrying as a race being? But also all of the other things that are represented in this circle and so much more. Race, class, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, first language, culture, immigrant status, nationality, ethnicity, religion, spiritual practice, way of knowing. All of those things matter and all of us have them. The first round often had us live in silos and not be able to connect to all of our identities. It is important that we own who am I and what am I carrying as it relates to each of these. The second one, awareness of self and awareness of others. Say awareness of others. All right, so let me do this really quickly. Folks in the room who identify as white, raise your hand, please. White people? Yay, white people love them. Give me a hand. Yes. It's important that we're aware of who we are and begin to explore others. When I sat in your seats at Slippery Rock State College back in everybody who raised their hand was going to hell. All y'all, just directly to hell. What I love about this moment is folks are saying, should I laugh? Can I laugh at that? Is that funny? What is going on, right? Now, it's not because I learned that white people were evil, bad, or wrong. When I went to college, folks, going to heaven meant you lived in this box. And there was a certain way you had to pray, worship, experience God, or else hell was going to be where you went. Anybody know what I'm talking about? What relate? When I got to college, I didn't know there were white Christians. White people were Catholic or Jewish, and they certainly couldn't go to heaven. And Catholic wasn't Christian when I got to college. Are you understanding what I'm saying? My awareness of others was limited and not accurate. I want you to think about what's the messages you've gotten about others. How do you know what you know? What are you rating? Who are you in relationship with? Awareness of self and awareness of others, understanding what you're carrying about the other. The third thing then, say it with me, is courageous action. Courageous action means a willingness to accept where you are in fear. It means a willingness to take some risk. It means a willingness to tell some truth to yourself. Are you willing to say, you know, I've never had a conversation with, I've never engaged with, I don't know how to talk to, I don't know how to talk about. Am I willing to be uncomfortable? That is courageous action, so we can live into the legacy. It is engaging the fear and moving beyond it. So it's awareness of self, awareness of others, courageous action, and finally, collaboration. Folks, we can't live this legacy alone. We simply cannot do it. And so anybody that you've written off as not getting it or not caring, those are the very folks you need to get in relationship with. I think those of us who are in this room may have heard, you have to meet people where they are. And sometimes we do. I'm coming over to meet you where you are, but I'm dragging you to where I need you to be. Instead of meeting people where they are and staying with them long enough to understand their investment in that space. What would it mean for me to walk away from that ideology? What would it mean for me to give up that way of thinking? What would it mean for me to partner? Who do I have to give up in order to create liberty and justice for all? And so, folks, I want you to think about today all of those things as you consider your own living into the legacy. You must own the work that you need to do. You must be willing to heal from those places of pain. I know oppression is alive and well, and it is still impacting us every day. And if we are walking around with wounds from second and third grade, we need to do some work. It's time for us to do the healing work and create the spaces for healing so I can show up in what my friend said this morning was radical love. Radical love, and radical love does not mean not angry. I appreciate the deepening around being able to show up that my anger is about the radical love that I have for us and for humanity. And so as I step away, I want to say what keeps me going in this and why this matters to me is because of who I'm accountable to. At the end of the day, I hear my mother's voice saying to me, you know what you have to do. Go out and do it. And then I look on the faces of my 7, soon to be 8 grandchildren. One just came into the world 3 months ago. I keep telling my children I'm fine. I don't need no more. But what I'm saying, folks, is I have a dream too. And I have a dream that these beautiful babies will grow up in a world where, regardless of the color of their skin, the size of their nose, the gender they were assigned at birth, whether they are living with a disability, visible or not, whether they actually get to have a formal education or not, whether they believe in the God of my understanding or find another way to experience the divine and greatness, whatever they choose to do to express their greatness and their beauty on the planet, I have a dream that they will be able to do that in their fullness. What I got clear about is, as I engage people across the country, most folks would agree with that dream. They want for their families and for their children, and particularly their grandchildren, to have a legacy of being able to be all of who they could be. So they would say things to me like, Jamie, well, I wish this didn't matter. I wish we didn't have to see race. I wish we didn't see color. I wish we didn't have to think about gender and pronouns, and that people could just be people. I wish. And I close my comments by inviting you to think about this. A wishbone will never suffice where a backbone is required. If, in fact, you are to live into the legacy, you won't wish it into place. We will be in this same place in 30 years unless you get about the business of doing your part. I believe you can. I hope you will. Thank you.